This video is about one of the most controversial questions in tarot, and that is, should I read reversals? In this video, you'll learn the pros, the cons, and how to decide whether reading reversals is right for you. Hi everybody, I'm Sue Allen Clayton. Welcome to my channel where we're learning how to read tarot one card at a time. In today's video, we'll be looking at the advantages and disadvantages of reading reversals. I will be using the Radiant Rider-Waite Tarot, and there is a link below. First of all, let me define reversals. All it means is that the tarot card is upside down. You can see a couple of examples on the screen. On the left, you can see the Hermit card in the upright position, and on the right, you can see the Hermit card in the reverse position. On the left, you can see the Six of Wands in the upright position, and on the right, you can see the Six of Wands in the reverse position. It's an easy concept, but I wanted to define it if you weren't familiar with the term. So that's the easy part. The hard part is deciding whether reading reversals is right for you. In this video, I will talk about 9 advantages of reading only upright cards, 9 advantages of reading both upright and reverse cards, and 10 ways to choose if reading reversals is right for you. First, let's talk about 9 advantages of reading only upright tarot cards. First of all, reading only upright cards is easier to learn. Memorizing the meanings of 78 tarot cards is already a daunting task because each card has multiple, maybe even hundreds of meanings. Let's say you try to keep it simple and memorize 3 keywords for each card. That's already 234 meanings to remember. That's a lot. So it's a whole lot easier to stick with only upright meanings and not double your work, and I think that makes a lot of sense if you're a beginner. It's like when you're learning to play the piano. You don't start off playing Nocturne in E-flat major, which is an incredibly difficult piece. You start off by playing Mary Had a Little Lamb, and you work your way up. Starting in manageable ways keeps you from getting frustrated and helps you feel like you're making progress. So starting by learning only the upright meanings of cards makes a lot of sense. That said, this argument makes me a bit angry. You never tell a medical student to only learn the bones in the upper part of the body because it's easier, or tell a painter he didn't have to get up on a ladder to paint the top of your walls because that would make it more difficult. So why do we tell people to just learn the upright meanings because it's easier? We don't tell people to just learn the suits of cups and wands and skip the swords and pentacles, because that would be easier. We don't tell them to just learn the major arcana. We tell them to learn the whole deck. I'm going to be transparent here and say that I do read reversals because I wanted to feel like I got everything possible out of my readings. I'm all for learning in whatever way works best for you, but just don't discount reversals just because they require more work. Number 2, upright cards are simpler to interpret. We are all used to looking at images right side up. If you're reading a picture book to a kid, you don't turn it upside down because that's just weird. When all of the cards are in the same upright position in a reading, it is easier to tell a story, to see connections, and to interpret the cards. They simply flow better. A lot of times I end up turning the card right side up, having a look at it, thinking about the upright meaning, and then putting it back in the reverse position. Having only upright cards avoids this and makes things flow better. Number 3, it's more efficient. If you are doing readings in a short block of time, you want to use the time as wisely as possible. Reversals take longer, so it makes complete sense to only read the upright cards and to streamline things as much as possible. Number 4, the results are more positive. This is true for most but not all of the tarot cards. The upright tarot has a more positive meaning and the reverse card has a more negative reading. Some readers like this because it's easier to deliver a positive reading than a negative reading. However, I question this. I feel like if someone is going to the trouble of spending their time and money getting a tarot reading, they want an accurate picture of what is going on. So only using upright cards might give a false positive reading and deprive them of insight that could make a positive difference in their lives. Number 5, you read tarot cards intuitively. I had a reading from someone, and what she told me, although it was incredibly accurate, had nothing to do with the cards that she laid out in front of me. I asked if she read intuitively and basically just used the cards as a prop, and she confirmed that's exactly what she did. So if you read cards intuitively, I don't think it matters whether or not you read reversals, or frankly, if you even turn the cards over. Number 6, you feel like upright cards provide enough information and reversals overcomplicate things. You think that the 78 cards cover everything that you need to know. I have heard this from a lot of seasoned tarot readers who've been doing this a lot longer than I have. However, it seems to me that because the reversals do mean something different, you would get more information from readings that contain reversals. Number 7, your teacher only reads upright cards. This is just my observation, but it seems like a lot of the tarot teachers started off reading reversals and then switched to just reading upright cards. That's what they do now, and that's what they teach. But I'm not sure that not reading reversals is the right advice for newbies. I think there are 2 reasons why seasoned teachers do not read reversals. The first is that their intuitive skills grew to the point that they didn't need the additional information from reversed cards. They are tuned in enough to their intuition that they can pick up information beyond what is shown in the cards, and that is a skill that takes time, and I certainly didn't have when I started reading tarot. The second reason is that they have become more skilled at using spreads, which I will talk about now. Number 8, you use spreads to get full information. I wanted to talk about this for a moment because I think you can't use spreads to get the same results as using reversals. Here's an example, and you can decide if you agree. Let's say you're doing a career reading and the querent asks, how can I be happier in my job? You decide to use a 3-card spread that answers, number 1, what should I focus on now? Number 2, what is blocking me? And number 3, what will bring me happiness at work? We pull 3 cards. Card number 1 is the Ace of Pentacles. Card number 2 is the Two of Wands. And card number 3 is the Ten of Cups. We're going to look at the middle card, what is blocking me, using the Two of Wands in both the upright and reversed position, and see if we get the same answer. So card number 1, what should I focus on right now? And I get the Ace of Pentacles. Aces are about new opportunities, and pentacles refer to career and money. So the advice would be to be open to new projects or opportunities at work. That might be taking on a new role or a new project in the company, or maybe getting some additional training to learn something new. Basically, you want to seize opportunities and lay the groundwork for your success. Let's jump to card number 3, which is about what will bring you happiness at work. The Ten of Cups is the happy family card. Happiness for you is not all about work. It's about a good work-life balance and having time to spend with your family. So maybe this is an opportunity to work from home or to have a 4-day work week. Let's go back to card number 2, which is about blocks. The Two of Wands is a very positive card, so the answer requires some thought as a blockage. This doesn't look like somebody who needs help, so it could be that you are overconfident or even a bit arrogant. He's also not really doing anything except standing there. His hands are full and he is not taking any action. So maybe he's holding himself back because he's afraid to fail or take action. There's nobody around him, so he's not great working on a team, or he's afraid to take on a leadership role. So now let's look at the Two of Wands reversed. This block can indicate difficulty making decisions, fearing the unknown, not taking action, and not having a lot of self-confidence. Pretty much the same thing we saw in the upright card when we were identifying blocks. I know this is just one example, but I think that people who are really good with spreads, which would be more seasoned readers, would choose not to use reversals because they could get the same information more efficiently using a spread, which might be one reason why more experienced readers do not feel the need to use reversals. I apologize for my voice. I am getting over something and it's been a challenge. Number 9, you get better results from reading upright cards. You've tried both ways and you've found that reading upright cards gives you the same or better results. I've heard this from many people and I think this is completely valid. I would keep track of your readings in some kind of a tarot journal so you have data to support whether or not reading reversals yields better results in your readings. You might also discover that reading reversals works well in some kinds of readings, such as career readings, and maybe not as well in some kinds of readings, such as romantic readings. It might also change depending on which deck you are using. So what do reversals indicate? One of the challenges of reading reversals is that they don't mean the same thing to everybody or with every card, and there are lots of ways to interpret reversed cards. A reversal can mean the opposite of an upright card. It can mean the same thing as an upright card, but it will just take longer. It can be a warning, or it can mean that certain actions need to take place, either within yourself or relating to external circumstances. If you want more information and some examples, I've linked to my video, What Do Reversed Tarot Cards Mean?, in the comments section. Let's talk about 9 advantages of reading reversals along with upright cards. Number 1, reversals add depth to a reading. I spent much of my adult life as a writer, and I can tell you that it's more interesting to read a passage written at the 10th grade level than at the 1st grade level because of the larger vocabulary. I feel like that is true with tarot. Even if you only know one meaning of a card, you're dealing with 78 cards if you're only dealing with upright cards. If you read reversals, you will have 156 choices of meanings. In this case, I feel like more meanings will lead to a better reading. Number 2, reversals can provide greater accuracy. Let's go back to my writing example. A 2nd grader would use the word boat. A 10th grader might use the word ship, vessel, barge, yacht, dinghy, canoe, or ferry. They all mean different things, and simple is not necessarily better. Reversals give you more meanings to choose from and can result in a more accurate and interesting reading. Number 3, reversals make the reading more balanced. In general, the upright meaning of a card is more positive and the reversed reading is more negative. So using a combination of upright and reversed cards can give you a chance to see the positive and negatives of a situation rather than skewing it towards the positive. Number 4, reversals make you think, or at least that's true for me. I'm pretty good at the upright meanings and find the reversed cards more challenging. When I see a reversed card, it forces me to really think about the reading and how the cards fit together. I feel like it forces me to ask questions and creates a better discussion with the querent, which leads to a better reading. Number 5, reversals catch your attention. I always find reversals to be interesting and different. They stand out and give you something to focus on. That's true for me whether it's one reversed card in a reading or when all the cards are reversals. They break the flow, and that can be a good thing. Number 6, reversals immediately show warnings, obstacles, challenges, or delays without having to tease them out of an upright card. For instance, the knights are all about action and moving forward. When I see a reversed knight, it is much easier for me to recognize that there is some kind of a delay happening. Number 7, it illuminates what we want to hide. If you're not familiar with the term shadow work, it was created by psychiatrist Carl Jung and refers to the parts of ourselves that we repress or hide because we find them difficult to deal with. For example, I consider myself to be a very gentle-natured person and don't want to admit that, underneath all that niceness, I've got major anger issues. The reverse could be true, and you could be somebody who is known to be a bit of a jerk, but underneath you're a pussycat, and you think that makes you look weak. Reversals can help bring these shadow issues to the forefront and open up a discussion and help you gain some insight. Number 8, you learn more. I feel like reading reversals has given me a better understanding of the cards. For me, learning the reversed meanings has made me a better tarot card reader than if I just stuck to the upright meanings. Number 9, they stand out. I am somebody who considers the traditional meanings of cards when I am doing a reading. Seeing a reversed card is a quick clue to the meaning rather than having to tease it from the upright card. I wanted to give you a personal example of this. Recently, I visited my parents, and we had to make some decisions about my father's failing health. My mother had never had a tarot reading, and I decided to jump right in. The first card I got was the Emperor reversed. As you likely know, the Emperor is not exactly warm and fuzzy, but he is a strong leader and a very capable ruler. This fit my father perfectly, as his whole life was spent in high-level leadership positions in both his job and in a volunteer capacity. Basically, my dad was in charge of everything he did. So I explained this to my mom, and then we talked about what the Emperor meant and what it meant when the Emperor was pulled in a reversed position. And it was immediately obvious to her that my father was no longer the man that he used to be. I have to say that it was incredibly sad, but it also provided a lot of clarity that we may not have gotten to if we had not been using reversals. Here's how to choose whether using reversals is right for you. I think how you choose to read tarot is a personal decision. It's totally up to you to choose whether or not you read reversals. I'm going to give you some guidance, but my big suggestion is to try it both ways. Keep a tarot journal and see if your readings are more or less accurate if you use reversals, and then be open-minded to revisiting this in the future. For now, here are some suggestions about how to choose if reading reversals is right for you at this time. First of all, consider your level of experience. If you are just learning tarot, it might be enough to work with the upright readings until you are comfortable. There is nothing wrong with this. Learning the meanings of 78 cards that in an upright position can be daunting enough. As we've discussed, many professional readers only read upright cards, and that is perfectly acceptable. Number 2, consider how much time you have to conduct your readings. In my experience, reading reversals takes a bit longer. If you're just doing quick readings, you might want to skip reversals. Number 3, do you read cards intuitively? If you largely use intuition when you are doing your tarot reading, whether the cards are upright or reversed doesn't really matter. If you are a new reader and laying out the cards and looking up the meanings in a book, you might get better results if you use reversals. Number 4, how much do you rely on images in your reading? If you rely on knowing the traditional meanings of the cards, understanding what reversals mean can add depth to your readings. If you're someone who relies heavily on the images to tell a story, having some upside-down images will likely take away from the interpretation of cards in your reading. Number 5, consider what deck you are using. If you're using the Tarot of Marseille, for example, you can see an example on the screen. The 2s through 10s are pretty much the same whether or not you choose to read reversals, so it's not really worth making that decision. On the other hand, you might have a deck with rich or more abstract imagery that is hard to figure out when it's in the reversed position. I know people who read reversals in some decks and not in others. Number 6, consider how reversals impact the flow of your reading. When I get a reversal, I generally start by turning it upright first and considering the upright meaning. That might make the reading feel less fluid because you're stopping and turning cards around. Number 7, how familiar are you with spreads? As we discussed earlier, you can get a lot of information when you are using spreads that might make using reversals unnecessary. But there's also a learning curve to spreads, and you need to have enough experience to figure out which spread will work in each situation. Number 8, your teacher. Most teachers that I've studied with did not read reversals, and it would mess up the course if you were trying to read reversals when everyone else was only reading upright cards. In this case, I would follow what your teacher is doing until you are comfortable with their method, and then you can experiment for yourself. Number 9, accuracy. As I mentioned earlier, you might find that reversals make your reading more accurate or less accurate, or don't really make a difference. Keep a tarot journal and see what works best for you. And finally, number 10, personal preference. There really is no one-size-fits-all approach to tarot. We all have different abilities, resonate with different decks, and perform different types of readings. Basically, the decision about whether or not to use reversals comes down to what works best for you. I hope that this video has helped you understand whether or not reading reversals is right for you. I'd love to hear your view on reversals and whether you choose to use them in your readings. Thanks for joining me, and I'll see you next time.